Hello and welcome to Beyond the Big Six. Today we are talking about Brighton and Hove Albion and why I think they could have a chance of breaking into the Premier League's top five and potentially secure Champions League football. So please like and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy this content. Let's dive in to why I think Brighton have a very good chance this season of pulling up a few trees. So the first reason is their transfer business. Yes, they have lost, João Pedro, they've lost Simon Adingra, they've lost a couple of others. But I like what they've done in terms of recruitment into Brighton. So I'm going to read off a list here. We'll probably butcher a few names. That's just who I am. Accept it. They've brought in Tommy Watson, Diego Coppola, Niels Ramming, Yoon De Jong, Charlampos Costulas, Olivier Buscagli, and Maxime de Coupier. It's a nice range of generally young players. We know Brighton like to sign young and develop, but there's also a little bit of experience in there as well. I like what they've done. It's supplementing what is already a really strong core group of players at Brighton. And in terms of the outs at Brighton, it always feels like they kind of are happy to, get rid of players that they feel like aren't going to fit into their team. So I'm never really too worried when they lose players. I think the João Pedro loss is obviously a big one, but it is something that they will have planned for. And I have no doubt that Brighton have answers to that are already in the building. So in terms of the players that they've brought in, I think I'm most excited about De Coupier from Club Bruges. He's 24 years old. He's had a breakout couple of seasons there. He's a very good attacking fullback, and I think he will complement the way that Fabian Hürzeler likes to play. So I think that's a really good pickup for Brighton. Tommy Watson, I'm guessing, is kind of a replacement for Simon Adingra. So Simon Adingra goes to Sunderland, Tommy Watson leaves Sunderland to go to Brighton. And he is, he's a raw talent. He's young. We saw, at times last season at Sunderland what he can do. He's a very direct winger, and he's similar to Jack Clarke, but he's probably got a much higher ceiling than Jack Clarke. Who thrived as well at Sunderland. So I think Tommy Watson is a good pickup. He's going to be the backup to Mitoma. He probably will spend a lot of the time coming off the bench. Maybe he might get a run of games if Mitoma picks up an injury. But I think Tommy Watson is a potential future England player. And it's a signing for the future. And I'm sure in 2 or 3 years' time, we'll be talking about Tommy Watson taking Mitoma's spot. If Brighton were to say sell Mitoma at some point, Tommy Watson could be a ready-made replacement. I don't think he'll burst onto the scene this season at Brighton, but I think he will be a player that is a big figure for them over the next 5 or 10 seasons. Brighton also spent £30 million on Costulas. He's a teenager from Olympiacos. He's got good stats, but obviously not a large sample size. It feels wrong to say he's the direct replacement for João Pedro, but certainly they've spent a lot of money there on a centre forward. The Athletic say that he's a very similar sort of striker to João Pedro, very busy, very capable linking up the play, very capable of running behind. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there, but I think at 18 years old, it'll be unfair to expect him to match what João Pedro has done for Brighton over the last few years. Buscagli, he comes in, he's going to help defensive cover. He's capable of starting games in the Premier League. I don't think he's going to be a main man necessarily at Brighton, but I think he will certainly help with their depth. Coppola's come in, and as a centre-back, I think he's likely to be cover. Initially, just looking at his age profile, it'll be, again, surprising to see him dislodge Brighton's current defensive framework. So there is a lot to like about what Brighton have done. As always in the transfer market, you can always trust them to recruit correctly. But I think as well at Brighton, it's not even about the recruitment per se. It's just the development of players that they have in the building. You always think that Brighton have a chance of improving a lot of the players that are already there. And I think there are players at Brighton right now. I look at Jack Hinchelwood, Carlos Baliba, Yankuba Minte, Jorginho Ruta. They're players that stand out to me as ones who can have a breakthrough campaign. I mean, a lot of them are already established Premier League players, but I think these players could take their career to the next level this coming season. And that excites me. It really does excite me to see that Brighton are adding to this squad, but they've also got so many players who will grow with them in this coming campaign. So there's a lot to be excited about, and that's the main takeaway I have with Brighton right now is as I look at them and think, the sky is the limit for them. I think they have a really good chance of having a very, very strong campaign. I think as well, the manager at Brighton is an interesting one. Obviously, he's very young, Fabian Hürzeler. Last season, I think there were teething problems at times. You know, there was that famous Nottingham Forest game where they got hammered 7-0. But I think overall, he showed enough to me that this is a guy that's learning. He's going to get better as time goes on. I really, really enjoy the way that Brighton play football and what his style of play is. But I think that first season in the Premier League will help him learn what this is all about. And I don't think he'll make the same mistakes that Brighton had a couple of runs last season, but one in particular where they went 8 games without a win. And I don't think that will happen this season, you know. And they also dropped some silly points at home last season, which actually probably cost them European football. You know, they dropped home points. I'll just read off this list here against Ipswich, Wolves, Southampton, Brentford, Everton, and Leicester. So all the relegated teams took points from the Amex Stadium. They were all draws. If they picked up them 6 points last season, they would have got European football. So if Brighton can rectify some of those issues they've had at home and even away from home, that, you know, they didn't beat Leicester at all last season, home or away, they can rectify that, you know, which I think is pretty easy to do. They should be beating the teams in the bottom third of the Premier League at home. They have a really good chance, you know, and that will make the difference for them because they're very good, they're very competitive, they've always got a chance, no matter what game Brighton are playing, even if it's against the best teams in the league. It's never a given against this Brighton team. So they can fix that. If they can fix some of the issues they've had against the lower sides in the Premier League, there is absolutely no reason why this Brighton team can't compete with Aston Villa and Newcastle, you know, Nottingham Forest last season, but there's no reason, Tottenham as well, that they can't get ahead of them in the game. And they also don't have European football, which the other teams they'll be competing against do have. Newcastle last season got in the top 5, but they didn't have Europe. There's no reason why Brighton can't replicate that in this current season, especially because of the issues going on at Newcastle. Even Aston Villa are struggling with recruitment of players, whereas this Brighton side is only getting stronger with time. But my overall verdict is that I am very optimistic for this Brighton and Hove Albion team. There is absolutely no reason why they can't pull up a few trees, get in the top 5, secure Champions League football or Europa League football. But I think that the aim this season should be for Brighton to push in to that top 5, you know. And I think that's not necessarily. I'm not saying that should be the ultimate target and the manager should be sacked if they don't get there. But what I am saying is there's no reason why this team isn't going to be capable of doing that. And there's nothing to fear with teams like Newcastle and Aston Villa right now, who are, I think, logically you'd say the ones going to be competing for that 5th place spot. I think the top 4 is pretty much sewn up, and that's ridiculous. The season hasn't even started, but I think the top 4, as it finished last season, them 4 teams are so strong, it's going to be hard to break in to that. But below that, I think it's anyone's game, and I think this Brighton side have got a very, very strong chance of getting 5th place in the Premier League and potentially getting Champions League football, which would be huge for Brighton, you know, to be on that huge stage. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think Brighton are in with a chance of getting Champions League football in this current season? I love interacting with everyone in the comments section, so it'd be great to see you in there. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like the video. That helps a lot. And we'll catch you next time.